100 block of East Harmon. It's at a high-rise location. Our officers immediately responded to that location and began searching the area. Upon arrival, they heard gunshots themselves, but they could not find any victims, and I can tell you that no one was shot during this incident. Nonetheless, because our officers heard gunshots in the area, we immediately activated our SWAT team, and they began going to the area. As soon as our SWAT team arrived to the area, we ended up identifying a unit that we believe was associated with the shooting. We believe that the suspect may have been inside of that unit. And so the SWAT team secured the location, and then we began a slow and methodical search of the unit. We do that for safety reasons and to make sure that our officers and the public remain safe. Once we completed a search of the unit, we determined that the suspect was not inside of that unit, but we did recover evidence associated with the shooting, to include a handgun as well as ammunition. At that time, we ended up identifying the suspect, and we began sharing that information with our security partners as well as all of our units in the area. And we received shortly after an alert that the suspect was still in the area nearby. Our units converged to that location, and ultimately between security and our officers, we were able to take him into custody without further incident. It's important to note that we believe this was an isolated incident. Most importantly, there were no victims that were shot or victims that were hurt. And our officers were also safe upon a response to a very significant event. And at the end of the day, there is no further threat to the community. Our officers did an exceptional job, not only immediately responding, and our SWAT team, which is no doubt the best in the country, did a remarkable job dealing with this type of unique event, securing the scene, making everything safe, and our investigators have done a remarkable job identifying the suspect so we could locate him quickly and put this to rest. I could take a few questions, but I do remind you, please understand that this is a active investigation. It had just happened early this morning. Our teams have been out there since the morning. We'll have more information at a later time. But leading up to tonight's New Year's event, I just want to reassure everyone that not only do we have very good plans for keeping the community safe, as we've done year in and year out, but our officers are always prepared, and we ask our community to continue to report any suspicious behavior so we can continue to do well in keeping this community safe. With that said, I can take a few questions. Yes?
Where did he shoot from?
So upon arrival, we noticed that there were gunshot impacts to the window of that unit, and then that there was also some indication that there was some shooting potentially from the balcony or inside of that unit. There are also some other gunshot impacts that we've located inside of that high-rise, but we do not yet have all of the details. As I said, the team is out there processing the scene. But the good news is that as far as we can tell, no one was shot at, and what we can tell you with certainty is we do not have any victims right now that have been shot.
Do we know what kind of firearm or firearms were used?
At this time, we believe it was a handgun, but we're still early into the investigation.
And did this suspect bring the handgun up to, I don't know if it was a residential or a hotel unit? Do you know which kind it was, VRBO? But how did he get the handgun up there?
We're still early into the investigation, so that's not a question we can answer at this time. But we'll get you more information. If there's any other questions. Yes, sir.
Approximately how many shots were fired? One of the residents that lives nearby we talked to said that he heard the stage shooting for about an hour before it stopped, and it was like different forms of volleys going out.
So we're still processing the scene. We'll have more accurate information a little later, but I can tell you that the initial reports that there were multiple rounds fired, and as I indicated earlier, when our officers responded and arrived on scene, they also heard gunshots indicating multiple rounds fired. But I can tell you that once our SWAT team arrived there and there was a little bit more of a police presence, there were no longer any gunshots for a long period of time when we were out there, which is why we were able to slow things down and do a slow, methodical search. So there's really two things we take into account. There's no other gunshots being heard, and then there was no indication that there were any victims hurt or anyone that needed life-saving measures. And at that point in time, we believe that there was just a suspect inside of a unit, and that's what we were focusing on to be able to apprehend that person safely Once we determined that that person was not in the unit, we were able to identify where that person was and take them into custody safely. With that said, I will just wrap up, and I will tell you that, I mentioned we have one of the best SWAT teams in the country. I would argue the best SWAT team, and our officers did a remarkable job. It's been a very busy year, but our officers continue to perform to the highest capability possible. This evening, we have really good plans in place, so it will be a very good event. A lot of our public is going to see our officers out there. I encourage you, please say hello to them. Thank them for their service. They've been working very hard this year, and they'll continue to work hard tonight as we have a very successful New Year's Eve. Thank you, folks.
I'm gonna put the mugshot up again, and I can also airdrop it to you guys.